Today we're checking out the new AC500 by Bluetti and if it's actually worth your money or time. And we're going to do a quick comparison over the old AC300 over here. So first off, on the new unit, it outputs 5,000 watts at the AC outputs. On the older one, it was only 3,000 watts. Next, the AC charging capabilities have been improved. The new one is now 5,000 watts, and the old one was only 3,000 watts. Next, the solar charge controller has also been upgraded as well. So the new one, it's 3,000 watts, and on the old one, it was only 2,400 watts. Also, the batteries have been upgraded. These are called the B300Ss, and on the old ones, those were called the B300. The only difference I could find on the new battery is that it has internal heaters if it needs it for cold temperatures, which is a good feature to have. Next, Bluetti changed these, and it actually looks a lot nicer than the old plugs, because before they looked like this, and I didn't like that. Next, the outlet configuration on the AC300 is very different than the AC500. Over here we have a NEMA 1450, then it has a 30 amp outlet, a generator outlet, and only 3 small 120 volt outlets. I wish there was more, because I like how this one has 6, and now it only has 3, and I think those are probably the most used outlets on the unit. Now let's talk about the downsides, because I found some things in the new unit that I despise. So first off, this NEMA 1450 is not a 240 volt receptacle. It's only 120 volts on one leg. I couldn't believe it. I connected my Tesla charger and it wasn't charging. I was like, what is going on? And I was getting 120 volts right here and 0 volts right here. So I don't know why they would put this plug on here if they only have one hot leg. This inverter circuit is only single phase 120, so it doesn't even produce 240 volts at all. Next, for some people, this generator outlet will prove to be very useful, especially if you have a transfer switch in your house and you have your critical loads connected to something that you can plug into this. That is very useful, and I do like this addition. And the 30 amp plug is a lot more usable with a 5,000 watt inverter, so those are improvements. But I wish they had more outlets. Having only 3 outlets for a standalone solar generator for someone trying to live off grid, I don't think that's enough. It would have been nice if they put 2 rows so you had 6 outlets right here. And if you have a wall wart or something that couldn't fit on the front plate, you could just have an extension cord for that. Next downside is the max PV input voltage on pretty much all of these solar generators is very limited. On the new one, it's 150 volts DC, and on the old one, it's also 150 volts DC. And on the EcoFlow Delta Pro, it's also 150 volts DC. All of the all-in-one units and solar charge controllers that we work with on this channel are around 500 volts now. So having 150 volts is just not that great. Also, the PV input is pretty limited. I think it should be 5,000 watts, not 3,000 watts. If you had a single series string, 5,000 watt array connected to this size battery and system, it would work perfectly. But that is not possible. Also, these batteries have their own solar charge controllers, but it's even more limited than this one. Max input voltage on here is 60 volts DC. So if you have a bunch of small 12 volt panels, I see how this could work easily. But if you're trying to make a real solar power system, you want a higher voltage single series string, because how these are built and designed, you're gonna have to have tons of wires all over the place. This one has 2 separate MPPTs, this one has its own, and this one has its own. So that means you're gonna have 8 wires going out to a bunch of solar panels on the ground or something. That's just silly. I would much rather have a single ground mount array outside with 2 conductors leading to a single high voltage input right here, and that's it. Nice and clean and more organized. Having tons of wires everywhere is just plain silly. And the PV input is protected. You'll never be handling those higher voltages. You connect it with MC4s down there and you plug this in up here. So there's no reason not to have a 500 volt DC input. I still don't understand why no one has done that yet. Now, would I buy this or an EcoFlow Delta Pro? As a stationary system, I actually prefer the Bluettis, and I've never had any issues. But I have read a lot of people having issues with Bluettis with their software, with the shunt calibration, with temperature sensor issues, and also the display. Sometimes it gets a little funky, and it will have a lot of issues. I'll actually post some pictures right now of some of the issues I've seen on the forum. Now, I have to give them credit for being better than most of the other solar generators available, and they are listening to their customers, and they are making improvements over time. But something that I have not seen with Bluetti or EcoFlow Delta Pro is the ability to turn on the inverter's output, these receptacles, to make them live when there's solar power available. On all of my other DIY systems over there, the inverter turns itself on after the batteries have recharged. With these, you have to manually turn on the inverter every time the battery gets too low and it turns itself off. You have to go over here and turn it back on again. And that's just plain silly. It should be completely autonomous and running on its own, especially if there's ample solar power available. And that update in the firmware would be so easy to add, but for some reason they still haven't done that. Oh, also the max current settings, if you want to change it in advanced mode, you have to get a password from Bluetti's customer service. It shouldn't require one. So that max input rating for the AC charger, if you want to use it, you have to contact Bluetti. And I've heard that Bluetti can take a long time to get a hold of. So having everyone contact them for a password is plain silly. Now in the future, if they have a NEMA 1450 with a 240 volt output, that would be fantastic. I actually got very excited when I saw this because I thought, oh, 240 volt receptacle in 5,000 watts, we can run heat pumps with a small plug-and-play solar power system. But no, we can't. So that was a big letdown. I really wish somebody could have a 240 volt solar generator so we can run heat pumps and also EV car chargers. If you could charge a Tesla and run a heat pump with a plug-and-play solar power system, you would be golden. But sadly, there isn't that option on the market yet. Now I'm thinking in the next year they're going to improve these. I'm going to give them a list of things that they need to change, and hopefully they actually listen. I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.